What are your goals and expectations for the upcoming spring season?
Our goals every year since we restarted the lacrosse program here at Frostburg has been to get better every year. In our first couple of years, I think getting better wasn't as hard as we've made it with the year that we've had last year. So we talk about measuring getting better by accomplishing things for the first time since we were a restart program. And last year we had our best record. We beat a couple teams that I think we hadn't beaten yet. We got to the conference semifinals, which were all things we did for the first time. So last year we thought we achieved those goals, and they just get harder and harder every year. So there's a couple teams in our conference we haven't beaten that we'd like to beat. That would be things we do for the first time. And then last year, we talk about of the 4 teams that we had regular season losses to. There were 5 of our losses to those 4 teams. All those teams were top 20 teams. So we've never beaten a top 20 team, and our guys, they really want to do that for the first time. Especially our seniors this year before they leave here. We've gotten some votes to be a top 20 team in the country, but we think that we got to beat a top 20 team to be a top 20 team. So those two things kind of go hand in hand. And if we're playing at that level, then we talk about we've made it to the conference semifinals, but we've never won a conference semifinal game. We've never gone to a conference championship. So those are all things that would be first for us. And if we're achieving those goals, then if we don't win the conference tournament, we think that we may have put ourselves in the conversation for an at-large bid at the end of the season, and maybe we're talking about going to the NCAA tournament. So right now we think that the things that would be first for us are pretty lofty, and they're kind of putting us in in the conversation with some of the top teams in Division III. And at the same time, while we're talking about doing all those things for the first time, we can't look past the fact that in our conference last year, we won 2 games by 1 goal. So we can't be so obsessed with achieving things for the first time that teams that we've beat a couple times now are beating us, and we're so focused on achieving a first that we're kind of getting bit by some teams that we were pretty fortunate to beat last year, and it's going to take a lot of focus to beat those teams again too. So.
Who are your key losses from a season ago?
I think when you look at our losses, the 2 guys that stand out the most stand out because they kind of play positions that are a little bit individual in the team sport. So losing Tyler Haynes in the goal is a key loss. He started for us when he was healthy for his whole 4 years here. So losing Tyler obviously is a big loss. And then the other one is the face-off position, losing Billy Lark there. Over the course of Billy's career, he took a high percentage of our face-offs, and he won a high percentage of those face-offs he took. So we're certainly going to miss the possessions we get on the offensive end of the field just from having Billy being the guy taking our face-offs. And then you kind of look at our other positions where at attack, obviously we lose Ryan Serio, who is our all-time leading scorer at Frostburg, and had a great 4 years. He could really score in bunches and was a great man-up threat. So losing Ryan's going to hurt a lot. On the defensive end, losing Kevin Kinney, is a guy that's started a lot of games over the course of his career, and started, I think, except for a couple games where he had a knee injury, started all of his games last year as a senior, and so losing him at the defensive end certainly is tough. At the long stick midfield, we graduated both of our top long stick middies in Jake McNew and Corey Bosley. So, we're going to have to find some answers at the long stick midfield position, because those guys, played a lot over the course of their. Corey was a 3-year student here because he was a transfer, and Jake was a 4-year guy. So those guys both played a lot over the course of their time here. And then in the midfield, even though we return, a lot of our top scorers in the midfield, we graduate a lot of guys that really played some important roles for us. Andy Lumen is a guy that kind of did everything for us a little bit. He took a lot of wings, played defense, contributed points on the offensive end, ran on the second midfield line, but we played both ends of the field really well. Zach Douglas was a really good wing guy for us on faceoffs. Played a ton of short stick D-midi, cleared the ball well. And played man down for us, So we lose those 2 guys that were kind of role players, and then we lose some guys that kind of filled out our midfield a little bit. Some guys that always, put up points every year. They might not have been our highest producers in the midfield, but Lucas Flagg and Devin Staley and Phil Hess and Ricky Kneebone were guys that kind of contributed over the course of their 4 years here, and were just kind of consistent guys for us in the midfield that we have to find guys to take their places.
Talk a little bit now about some of your key returners.
Again, I think that losing Kevin Kinney and losing Ryan Serio is softened a little bit by the fact that we return Paul Newman and Zach Burkhart at defense. They're both two-time second-team all-conference guys for us, and they're both going into their senior year, so they've had a lot of experience. They're good leaders down there. And at attack, even though we lose a starter in Ryan Serio, we kind of think we return three key guys there. Ryan was hurt a good amount over the course of his career, so if you look at Nick Staley's points over his first 2 years, those are pretty impressive numbers given that he's primarily playing man up and some situations where he's got to get on the field to be a shooter for us against his own defense, and just when Ryan's hurt, so he's put up pretty good numbers, kind of as a fill guy a little bit for Ryan and kind of in specialized situations. But aside from Nick, we returned Devin Colgrove, who I think was one of the conference leaders in assists last year, had a lot of points for us. The ball's in his stick a lot. We create a lot from Devin. And then Spencer Love is a guy that conference rookie of the year his freshman year, put up a lot of numbers again last year, and we expect big things from him again. And then, like I mentioned, I think we return our top 4 scorers in the midfield this year in Chris Rios and Greg Bourne and Tate Rowland and Spencer Barnett. So we return a lot of depth there. Aside from the guys that have been key returners for us that have already been contributors as well, we think we have a lot of key returners that maybe just haven't had the opportunity to contribute as much yet. So when we graduate Billy, one of our key returners automatically is Eric Geiser, a guy who has taken over the course of his first couple of years has taken a lot of face-offs, and he's won a pretty high percentage. So in returning Eric, we think we have a pretty prepared replacement for Billy, and a guy that's ready to step in and be our primary face-off guy. And again, in losing Tyler Haynes, we think we have two junior goalies that are very capable in Tom Kramer and Taylor Schmitz, and both those guys had great falls, and we're confident with either one of those guys moving forward. At the long stick midfield position with graduating kind of our top 2 guys, we're excited that we have Alex Phillips and Chris Santina coming back as sophomores, and they're ready to go, and they knew that this opportunity was going to be there for them. Michael Kibler is a guy that we've moved to the midfield. We just thought he was kind of too good and too athletic to be a reserve attackman, and we needed to get him on the field, so he's hopefully going to provide some midfield depth for those guys that we graduated. John Gamber is a guy that, again, recognized an opportunity with us graduating, Andy Lumen and Zach Douglas, and he's kind of become a two-way guy, a transition midi, a guy that takes wings and takes a lot of face-offs for us. So, we think a lot of those guys, they're key returners for us, even though, other people might not see them as key returners because they've already had a lot of contributions.
Who are your key newcomers?
With graduating such a big class last year, we've got a lot of newcomers, and we kind of reserve judgment on our freshmen because I think the biggest time for freshmen to develop is kind of after fall ball, when they realize where they stand and where they need to be, and they have an opportunity to work hard over the next 4 or 5 months to kind of state a case for themselves in the spring. So a lot of those guys still have a lot of time to kind of state their claim and see who we're going to play a lot. But in the fall, Bradley Jones was a really good freshman that can play defense or long stick midi. He played a lot for us in our fall scrimmages and had a good fall. And then again, I kind of mentioned that in the midfield last year, we've graduated a lot of guys that were key contributors for us, and in graduating so many guys, somebody's going to have to step in and fill some roles. So, we think Evan Arsenault and Ethan Aiken and Keegan Colgrove, hopefully will play themselves into playing positions, over the course of the spring.
What are your thoughts on the schedule, both in and out of conference?
I think in conference that's a pretty easy answer. Last year, of the 6 teams in our conference that made the the CAC tournament, at some point in the season, all 6 of those teams were either ranked or got votes for the top 20. So I don't know how many other conferences in the country can say that. So, I think that we might not be recognized among some of the traditional powerhouses like the Centennials and the NESCACs and the ODACs just yet. But I think if we sustain that level for another year or 2, I think we're going to have to be talked about among some of the better conferences in the country. So it's the conference itself is tough. It's really tough. We think we have some pretty challenging opponents out of conference that if we manage to win those games, it's really going to kind of help us represent the conference and represent our team pretty well.